Okay, all right, here we go. Let me get my act together. All right. So, I said previously we are going to be doing instead of the Tuesday tips, instead of Saturday synopsis. We're going to be doing a Saturday writing session. We want to incorporate all of that on a Saturday writing session. This session, my goal is to be no more than a half hour to an hour. We're going to be talking about plot development, character development, storytelling. We want to help break down the character. Feel free to follow us. We'll be live on Facebook, on the and on YouTube. Feel free to comment um, and join us and ask any questions regarding writing. Those who don't know, I'm sure all my friends and family know, my followers know. I am a published author. I am the CEO and owner and founder of Writer's Block Publishing LLC. We publish independent authors for free. A lot of people have asked, well, how do you make your money if it's free publishing? First of all, you're not supposed to charge to publish. Okay. Now, the marketing, the editing, the merch, this is how we generate income. But what Writer's Block Publishing LLC does is we provide the ISBN number, either paperback or hardback, and then whichever one that you select, we give you that ISBN number to even publish as an ebook or Kindle. Okay. Also, what we do is we market on our social media pages for free. Any extensive marketing, that is a charge, and we charge for editing. Also, the purpose is not to get rich. The purpose is not to just have the all that type of cash flow. I wanted to give a platform to all independent authors because everyone has a story to tell. You may not be an author, but you're a writer. So write your story. You may be an author and a writer. So it's encourage you to tell your story, whether it's your memoirs, the things you went through, a short story that you just wanted to share, a children's book, fiction, poetry, nonfiction, motivation. We have journals. If you want to write a journal to encourage people to write, this is the platform that we provide because, again, everybody has a story to tell. The writing session is to just encourage people to write, especially when there is a type of roadblock. Um, the writing session is there to encourage anyone, just again, whoever wants to write. It is to help you stay focused, especially in this time that we're dealing with a lot of mental health, a lot of trauma, and encourages to write it out, whether it's in a journal, a gratitude journal. We have gratitude journals. We have prayer journals. We have, you know, stress journal, like whatever, the food journals, things like that. Because when you kind of overeat, you're dealing with some issues, right? Write it out. Okay. Now, speaking of writing, we have the Writer's Block writing workshop. This is on January the 31st at 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. 2016. All right, hands-on learning, plot development, character development, storytelling. Okay, the cost to register is $40. There is the Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal information on how you can reserve your seat. This will be via StreamYard. This is the platform that I'm using right now. Once you register, of course, shoot me an email. You can always email me at, I'll put this banner up, writersblockpub@yahoo.com. Create the banner. All right. And I'm going to post this. You shoot me an email at writersblockpub@yahoo.com. Yes, I still use Yahoo. My brother got on me about using Yahoo. I don't care. Yahoo works for me. Writersblock at yahoo.com, and shoot me an email because I will see that you register your seat. Okay. Then I will email you back your writing packet. Okay. So that way you can download it, you can print it, you can follow along as we go over these writing tips and resources and in this classroom. I've been doing this since maybe I think it was 2018. I've great results. I have published authors who participated in the workshop. They have been extremely successful and extremely it holds the authors accountable, because if you're really trying to be that writer, if you're really trying to be that author, you have to do that. All right. So moving forward, we're going to be also discussing today plot development. I'm gonna pull this up. Plot development. Now I've used this little image every time I discuss plot development. I put this on my videos when I for my editing, and this is it looks like a backwards goofy little triangle, but this is the plot development grid, and you can do what you need to do with this. You can find it on, of course, the Google sites. You can find it on anywhere. You can even take a piece of paper and kind of make this yourself to help you stay focused on your plot. Far as plot development is concerned, now a natural writer, a natural author, well, I'll say an author, they could do this in their sleep because it's natural. Okay. But those who are now tapping into their gift of writing, those that are tapping into their creative realm, they may need a nice little chart or a grid or diagram to help them kind of stay on track. It's very easy to get off track when you're writing because there's so many ideas, and your character may have to go through some type of journey or transition, and you just got to stay on point, right? So with the exposition is the beginning of your story, your introduction. Okay. The exposition introduces your characters, mainly all of them, from the protagonist, the antagonist, maybe even a secondary character, your sidekick, the Robin to your Batman. You know what I mean? The exposition is the foundation, right? It's going to start talking about everything that we need to know. It might even introduce, I'm not going to say it might. What it will do is it will begin to show who your character is. All right. It far as when you think of someone and they have a certain mindset, you're just like, why are they like that? Because that's who they are, right? This is where we see who your character is. Okay. We will even see who the antagonist is. So when you are working on your characters, your protagonist and your antagonist, this is the introduction where your reader will see exactly who they are. Okay. Now, in the past week, I have been watching Power, right? All the way from the beginning. I'm introduced to the club. I'm introduced to Ghost, Tommy, and Tasha. I'm just like, all right. And we know that Ghost is running a nightclub. Best friend Tommy is kind of a loose cannon, and he has his diva-esque wife named Tasha, and they have these babies. They have 3 children. This is the beginning. And we can already see that Ghost is having some type of turmoil. So now we got to figure out what the turmoil is. Ghost is running this nightclub, and he's trying to get out of the game, per se, right? But you got Tommy, who's using the nightclub to store his money, clean the money, and it's that lifestyle. You need a cover up, which is the club. All right. And Ghost, also what I noticed as I was watching it, Ghost is more, he's married, but you don't really see that bond, that beautiful husband and wife bond. So it's like, okay, maybe they got, as I'm watching, maybe the relationship has gone stale. And when you're married for a significant amount of time, everything becomes routine. So I'm watching to see how it plays out. And one night in the club, this young lady walks in named Angela, and Ghost is smiling at her. They're hugging. So she's an old acquaintance. And come to find out, it was an ex-girlfriend from high school. The first love, or the one that got away. Okay, so now we're seeing an emotional conflict. Okay, I have a wife who I'm committed to because we have children. I have a wife that's been a ride or die. So I have to, like, why would you leave that support, but that first love that pulls you in? This is the conflict. And then, of course, we have Tommy and all of the messiness that he brings. Now, I don't know who I like more, Ghost or Tommy, because as I've been watching this series, I know that when Tommy finds out some information, woo, no. Okay, now mind you, I'm on season 6, so I'm already coming home, and I've been told about the power book and raising. I've been told about this whole franchise. I'm ready to like dive into the next step. So it is very, very captivating and very, very engaging. And that's what you have to do as a writer. You want to captivate him immediately, right? We have Ghost's real name is James St. Patrick's, and he's trying to even get away from the name Ghost, right? Okay, so again, also introducing your character and the journey that they have to go on. James's journey is to get away from this lifestyle. Okay, he wants to be a better man for his family. Okay, and even though he's maybe well, if you haven't, well, I don't care. Spoilers. If you haven't seen it, there's this great emotional love pull with Angela. It's pulling him to her, where, you know what, with his wife, we've built a great empire. Let's kind of just part ways amicably. That's what I got in the first couple of episodes. But and then also on the back end, Angela is a federal lawyer, so she's investigating some things, and she's finding out some leads in the drug world that is part of Ghost's world. So it's like a collide. All right. But again, this is all your plot. And this is the things that are in the first 3 to 4, maybe 5 episodes. So this is your plot, right? And now, as things are beginning to come together, we have your characters. Now it's time for the rising action. The rising action is now leading up to the climax. So as I was mentioning about power, Angela is now investigating on the drug activity in the criminal world that's pretty much led by Ghost and Tommy. And Ghost is the man that she is now reconciling with from high school. And she sees that he's a businessman. He has money. He has this type of swagger, but she's finding out some information is leading to her solving the mystery of who Ghost is. Right? Now, here is the climax. This is the explosion of the book, the drama of the book, right? The drama where your characters find out some information, the drama where your characters, some may come to a demise. We all know the drama. When the blank hits the fans, right? That's the climax. So when you start writing, we have to have your introduction. You have to set the scene, okay? You want to think of location. Do they live in Pittsburgh? Big ups to the 412. Do they live in New York? Are they in Cali? Are they in Atlanta? Are they over there in Europe somewhere? Okay. Where does your characters live at? Or you can create your own world. Okay. The rising actions. Now we're going to see your characters get involved in something. And again, it doesn't have to be as dramatic as power, but it could be a situation where, say, a death in the family, or it could be a situation where this character is now getting into a new school, a new surrounding, or a new neighborhood. And now they're starting to find out some information about this school or neighborhood, the rising action. Okay. And the climax is when all the information has been exposed. Okay. Not even, of course, it doesn't have to be dramatic, but all the information has to be exposed. In my book, Flaming Blue, my book, Flaming Blue, this is my second book that I published with my company, Writer's Block Publishing. I have a character named River Daniels. River Daniels is a very structured individual. She is a best-selling author. She is a college, university educator, professor, and she actually teaches also at a small community college. Okay, so she has money, and she is the sole investor in her uncle's nightclub. So she'll throw some money, help him get his start a business. However, the nightclub is now being built. The architect behind his nightclub is being built by an ex-boyfriend from 15 years ago. Okay, so you know how us ladies can be when we're mad. Oh no, he didn't. Oh, you won't find this dude. No, no, no. The thing is, the uncle never really knew about this gentleman, and this gentleman was somebody that Reverend Daniels truly cared about and truly loved. And it was so long ago. Now they're reacquainted. So how will it go down? Okay, will they get back together? Will she allow this nightclub to be built by someone? And the thing is, if the relationship ended sour, would there be an investment? Would you allow that person to come in and be a part of your life doing any type of business? Now you could say it's not personal, it's business, or it's no, you know what I mean? I'm someone, if I don't have a relationship with you at all, we're not going to do any type of business. It's not an option. I don't need that. I don't need money that bad. That's who I am as an individual. I just know that some people can disconnect the personal side and maintain a professional business relationship. Okay. So we need to find out how this will unfold. And if it does unfold, what will happen? So that's Flaming Blue. It is available on Amazon. Go ahead and get that book, read it. It is very heavy. It deals with a lot of mental health. It deals with a lot of trauma. Okay. So go ahead and get that book. It is available. It's also available also on Kindle. Okay. We were talking about the climax. Now, let's get to the falling action. Okay. The falling action, of course, when things begin to come together. So after the mess, after the explosion, after all the hiccups, the falling action. Okay. So now we're like, okay, now we got to clean this mess up. How do we clean this mess up? Let's think of recent events, the holidays, right? We had Christmas, New Year's. We had the decorations up. We had the Christmas presents out. We had the Christmas food out. We had the friends and family over. The explosion. Again, it doesn't have to be dramatic because the climax is, will the family get together, right? Will we all get along? Because you know how some family members can be. Okay. So what we need to do is now bring it all together. Clean up this mess. Okay. So now after everything is done, again, doesn't have to be major dramatic. Somebody has to come and get the wrapping paper that was used to wrap the gifts, put in the trash. Somebody might have to come and clean up the kitchen and help put the food away or dish out the leftovers. All right. Somebody has to come up and help kind of clean up a little bit. So we have to come together and clean it up. As I'm watching Power, I'm seeing how when there's a mess, Ghost and Tommy eliminate the mess. We got to clean this stuff up. Okay. They go through what they need to go through to remove all the necessary obstacles to clean up the mess. All right. The falling action, because now it's going to bring you to the conclusion, the closure. The closure is everything now is settled. Everything now is done. Whether you move forward and go off in a sunset, or if you decide to do a part two. There's a lot of books with the part two. Think of one of my favorite books series was the Hunger Games series and the Twilight Saga series. When I read both those series, both the writers did an excellent, excellent job of getting the reader hooked. So they could not wait until the next book came, and the writer cannot write fast enough. We're like, release the book now. Okay. That's how powerful, because when you think of these books, when you think of everything that has now taken place with the characters, with the story, has it really ended? Was it really a conclusion, especially in the first two books? Stephanie Myers has 4 books with it. No, actually 5 books with the Twilight Saga, but the 4 major books is Twilight, New Moon, the eclipse, and Breaking Dawn, right? So in the Twilight Saga, we meet Bella, we meet her mother. She's kind of unstable. She goes off and gets married, and her husband is in a baseball league minor, and she goes off and spends time with him. So she's like, it's best if you live with your dad. That way you have a parent, a stable, structured parent, consistent parent. And she moves in with her father. And the issue is now that we watch her and her father build a life, get reacquainted. And now she's living in this very small town of Forks, Washington. It's a very rainy town, very gloomy town. Okay, very community friendly town where your neighbor is like a very small population. And as she's starting to get to know people, she's reacquainting with her childhood friend Jacob, and then she meets a very charming, the very elusive Edward Cullen, and he has a very mystique about him and the whole family. Now we're getting to the rising action, and when she actually finds out who he is, the climax, boom, the explosion. So now what? So now, as they uncommon enemy is now trying to merge through, all right, this is the falling action because now everything has to come together. We have to clean up this mess, and then the conclusion. But the conclusion didn't stop. It went over into New Moon, and then that book went the way it went. The conclusion didn't stop. It went into Eclipse. Okay. And then Eclipse, that conclusion didn't stop. It went into Breaking Dawn because this is when it got extremely full, extremely heavy. So the major, I think to me, the books itself was a huge climax. Okay. Because now I'm in this world. Bella's like, I'm in this world. I'm part of this life. So now we have to do what we need to do to stay focused and to maintain our privacy, so to speak. All right. Here we go. Of course, the conclusion is everything comes together. The closure, okay? The closure of the book. All right. So what I want to do now is I want to go over some information. Let's see. Let me pull up this spreadsheet that I have. The protagonist. Okay, hang on. All right. So there's the structural spine. There's the escalation, which is, of course, the rising action, the reckoning, which is the falling action, and the resolution. All right. So let's start with let me see. We're going to do Act 1, the disruption. All right. This is, if you want to say this is a type of introduction, I really don't want to use that format to introduce a character, but sometimes you have to. Sometimes you got to go straight in. Okay, that's what you may have to do to introduce your cast, your character. It's the beginning, the opening situation. What is their normal? How does it start? What events disturbs their normal life to start the story? And what choices force the protagonist to act? Okay. When I mentioned power, we already see that his normal was somewhat chaotic, but somewhat calm, because the calm was in the house. When he would go to the penthouse where he dwelled at with him and his wife, Ghost and Tasha, it was normal. They were eating dinner, talking with the kids. How was school today? You know what I mean? He'd go talk to your wife. How was your day? That was normal. But at the club, that's where the drama, the energy, the business talk conversations happen. That was his normal. So he was living, we see that the character was living two different lives. Okay. This is the introduction. Okay. The rising action, Act 2 is a middle action. First major obstacle. What are the stakes increase? What gets worse if the protagonist fails? What is the midpoint moment? And what is the lowest plan? This is all in the rising action. So we could be thinking like, wow, that's a lot. It really isn't, because again, we have to now see what's going on. So in my book, Flaming Blue, the rising action is are you really going to let a past relationship from 15 years ago, are you that petty? Are you that childish? Okay. And then if you're not, what really happened? Let's find out what really happened and what was going on in the character's world 15 years ago for her to feel the way she feels 15 years later. Okay. This is what something you need to think about. And it doesn't have to be nothing major. It could be something minor, but to your character is major, because when you really think about, say, your life, you could be mad at an old friend for some things that they did or didn't do. And to you, that's major, because if you did everything that you can for a friend, if you did everything possible, help pay bills, to help take care of kids, help get a job, and say that friend just isn't ungrateful, yeah, you could more the relationship and move on. But sometimes it's the principle that hurts the most. So something that, again, we need to see in your character, and we learn this from the introduction and the rising action. All right, let's see what's next. Okay, now remember, the climax is the explosion, the final confrontation or turning point, the final choice. What does the protagonist choose to do differently than before? How is this conflict resolved? And what final moments do we leave the readers with? Okay, now don't get this concept confused with your falling action and your conflict, because say once the climax hit, the reader could actually, your character could actually see exactly what it is now. It can be an awakening moment, and now they have to move differently. And we watch them move differently in the falling action, and their moving differently is completely now settled in the conclusion. Okay, you want to write everything down. I've always said the first step to writing is to write. The second step is to rewrite, and I live by that. That is my motto. Okay, when I'm writing, even when I'm writing a letter or paper, it doesn't have to be a book or an email. I just write it out first. Then I go back over it. I do the edits. Maybe I should say finally, or maybe I should say therefore. You know what I mean? Maybe I should take an and out, put a period, and start a new sentence. That's the process. That's the rewriting. So anything, just write it down. Get you a notebook. You can get a notebook at we all know, from the dollar store. Okay. If you need a journal, Writer's Block out journals too. Message me or follow me on my Facebook pages and reach out to me for a journal. We have a variety of journals, by the way. Okay. But start your writing process. Okay. Also follow writing supports on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whichever social media platform that you like to use. Follow those, because it's a writing community. You have to be a part of this community. All right. Guess what we're going to do next week? Next week, we're going to talk about more plot development, and we're going to include character development. Okay. Your protagonist. So we're going to be mixing it up for this writing session. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And do me a favor. This is going to be on YouTube. Subscribe and like it and share it. Have a great, great Saturday.